Hey everybody, hey Fave Crafts. This is Heidi Gusted from the blog Hands Occupied, and I'm here today on Facebook Live to show you guys how to make tassels. I've got a couple different projects here with me. I brought this scarf. This is the big old bias knit scarf that was just on my blog this week. This is an easy garter stitch scarf knit on the bias, and I've added these really cool tassels on all 4 points of this scarf, and it's a great way to incorporate the colors from the body of the scarf into the tassels and add a little more texture to a beginner friendly knitting project. And then some other projects I brought as tassel examples today. I made these little earrings using the tassel making technique we're about to show you today. I made these using embroidery floss and just a couple of earring ear wires. And then this one that I can't wait to bring home with me tonight and hang up in my studio is a rainbow themed, very retro-ish wall hanging done in rainbow colors of just scrap yarn I had laying around, and I added them all to this dowel to make a hanging. So these are just 3 examples of projects you can make using tassels. And by the way, if any of you, as I demonstrate how to make tassels here, if any of you have questions for us in the studio live, go ahead and leave those in the comments and we'll get to those as soon as we can. And if there's anything I miss, we'll come back to those at the end. So let's get started on how to make a tassel. What you're gonna need are scissors. I recommend pretty sharp scissors. These are some scissors. They're just Fisker's scissors with an extra fine tip that I really like to use. I've got a couple of steel crochet hooks, and I also have this tassel maker. This one is by Boy. You can also just use a piece of cardboard, but since we're live, I wanted to use this tassel maker so I could easily jump between sizes of tassels, which I'll show you how that works in just a second. So let's get started. All right. So with this tassel maker, it's got these little doors all down it. I'll let my video guys zoom in here. So you can see on this tassel maker, it's got all these different sizes of tassels. And so what you can do is you just close each one of these doors up until the length you want your tassel to be, and these snap into place. This is just a little plastic doodad. And let's say I want my tassel to be 3.25 inches long. So I've shut all of these tassel doors down to this length. And now what I've got to do is wrap my yarn around the tassel maker. So what we're going to do here is hold the tail of our yarn, and I've got this whole skein of this like burnt orange yarn here to work with. We're going to hold the tail at the bottom of the tassel maker and wrap it all the way around. If you're not using a tassel maker, if you're just using a piece of cardboard, this would just be a rectangle of cardboard that you'd be wrapping around. You can wrap any number of times you want. The more wraps you do, the thicker your tassel is going to be, the thinner it's going to be. But basically we started here holding the tail of our yarn and have wrapped a little bit more than a dozen times, and now the yarn is at the opposite side from where we started our wrap, and we're going to trim that tail. Easy peasy. Next we need 2 pieces of yarn. So I'm going to just use this same yarn here and cut 2 lengths of yarn that are the same length, like so. Then what I like to do is switch over to my crochet hook. And what we've got to do is insert our crochet hook inside the middle of all those wraps of yarn around our tassel maker right here. Then we're going to catch our length of yarn with our crochet hook and pull it through. You can also use a yarn needle if you prefer. And then we've got to just center that yarn scrap at the top of our tassel, okay? Now we knot the top really tightly. So there's one part of our knot, and then I'm going to hold that tight in place and give it a second knot to tighten up. And there, the top of your tassel is ready to go. Then grab your second piece of yarn and wrap it around what I like to call the neck of my tassel. In this tassel maker, there's a nice spot for it. If you're using a piece of cardboard, you can get creative with the placement of the neck of your tassel. I'm going to turn my tassel maker over, center the scrap yarn one more time, and tie another knot to form the neck of this tassel. So there's one knot and 2 knots. And no, I don't have the directions on my arm. That is just a tattoo, but that would be a pretty slick move. All right, next what we've got to do, once we've got the top of our tassel knotted and the neck of our tassel knotted, which you can see right there, we just need to cut the end of our tassel. So we just put our scissor in here and try to cut right through the center of all of that yarn. I did pretty good there. I got that in one cut. Usually it takes a couple. Next, we're going to pop this off the tassel maker, and you've got a tassel ready to go. What I like to do, and what I did with all the tassels I used to make today's projects, I like to wrap my tail around the neck. So it's got a couple nice wraps of yarn, and I like to wrap them in opposite directions from each other to thicken up that neck, and then also it gives me something to wrap around to tie one more knot on the back of the tassel. So some quick tips for really, really good tassels. I know that you guys saw a pom-pom demonstration here the other day. Just like with pom-poms, you need these knots that you tie around your yarn scraps to be really tight. That makes your finished tassel or pom-pom, depending on what you're making, it makes it have a lot better of a shape, because you can see here where I really tighten the neck of this tassel. The yarn legs like to kind of bloom out from there, and that really helps the shape of the tassel. So like that. And then another thing you can do is use contrasting yarn, so a different color of yarn to make your neck of your tassel to really add another bit of color and interest to the tassel. So that is the basics of tassel making. If there are any questions so far, let me know, or if you have any other tips or tricks you like, you can go ahead and post those in the comments and I'll share them out here in the video feed as well. Otherwise, I can show you how I went kind of crazy with the tassels for this wall hanging here and how I put this all together. So when you are a knitter or crocheter, like I am, you end up with a lot of extra yarn balls left over and sitting around. They aren't quite enough to do a full project, but they weren't so little that it made sense to just throw them away. A lot of us yarn folks might just be hoarders, by the way. So what I did was I took a bunch of yarns. I picked colors in the colors of the rainbow, obviously, and I made 6 tassels each of each color. So this is just 6 tassels. I made these all 4.75 inches long using that tassel maker I was demonstrating with. So I used this red yarn, which is some Red Heart Super Saver. I had this orange yarn, which is a combination of UU yarns and some Lion brand yarn that was both orange. This yellow yarn is some wool yarn from Why Not, KNOT fibers. This is some ancient, like chenille, kind of like a sage green that I've had forever. I think those might be my favorite tassels because they're a different novelty kind of look and they just look so fun contrasted with the other yarns. This is just some wool that I've had in my stash forever. I couldn't tell you what the yarn is. And then we've got a couple different line brands over here. We've got Woolies and then we've got Jiffy. And I only had enough for 4 purple tassels with the Woolies, so I added 2 more with Jiffy just for fun. So with these tassels, the big thing I had to do was make sure that the yarn I used to tie off the top was long enough that I could then attach it to my dowel. And since I didn't want to mess with with drilling holes into my dowel, I just single crochet stitched all around my dowel, and then I knotted each tassel individually to my dowel at different heights. I think it turned out really fun, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to hanging this up around my house because it's kind of hard to go wrong with rainbows in tassel decorations. And then if we take a look at these earrings, which at the top of this video, I mentioned I used embroidery floss for these. The nice thing about embroidery floss is I didn't even have to do a lot of wrapping to get these so consistent. I used a variegated embroidery floss for these, and I only needed to do 2 wraps to get this look because the embroidery floss came all densely wrapped, so it was just 2 wraps around my tassel maker. Just 2 wraps, and then I tightened the neck, tightened the top, attached the ear wires, and I was good to go. So really easy stuff. Let's see, what else? If there are any questions, go ahead and let me know. We will take a look at those, but it's been really fun being here on Fave Crafts for Facebook Live, and I hope to see you guys all again soon. Bye.